Welcome to IsraelVision.tv. My name is David Rawlings and I'm here with Avi Lipkin with the third deception of Islam. Now hold on to your seats. Honestly, it's very politically incorrect what we're discussing, but from what I understand, it's so true that it's scary. Avi, please.
The third deception, and this again is something that President George W. Bush said when he was president of the United States, that we all pray to the same God and that Allah and God are the same. And you know, unfortunately, there are many churches that say it, and there are many synagogues, many rabbis and many pastors and priests who say Allah and God are the same. The Pope said it also.
Sure, the Pope. There's pictures of the Pope kissing the Quran.
Yes. Now, Allah is the devil. Allah is the opposite of God. And by the way, when the Muslims pray and they say Allahu Akbar, that does not mean God is great. Allahu Akbar means Allah is greater.
Yeah.
Now, if you know what the devil is, Lucifer, Satan, said he was greater than God.
That's right. He was
cast out of heaven. And by the way, it's a very Jewish testimony. It's not something made up by the Christians. It's from Jewish texts. Allah is Lucifer, Satan, the devil. And Allah said he was greater. The God of Allah is the moon god, the war god, and the sword god of ancient Mecca and Medina.
So where can we get all this information in a very in-depth manner?
Well, you can go to vicmord.com, VICMORD.com, which is my website. From there, by the way, I'm also in Google 5,000 times. Okay. I'm in YouTube. The information is not secret. But anybody who studies the ancient pagan religions of the Mediterranean and the Middle East understands and knows that in Arabia, during the time of Muhammad, you had Jews, you had Christians, and you had pagans.
Right.
The pagan system of Mecca and Medina was based on 360 gods, pagan gods. The three greatest gods were the moon, the sun, and the stars. That's why you see the moon, sun, and stars on their flags and their symbols. Well, that's why you see the moon crescent on their minarets and on their mosques.
Everywhere.
Because Allah is the moon god.
The moon is synonymous with Islam.
Yes.
In
Allah is the moon god, war god, and sword god. Now, by the way, in Deuteronomy 17, God says, anybody who prays to the moon, sun, and the stars, take them to the gates of the city and stone them. In other words, in my opinion, Islam is a capital offense. Islam must be banned if we are following the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. If we're not following the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, then Islam will win and we'll all be dead. Because Islam is religion of peace when everybody's dead. So their God is the moon god, war god, and sword god. And their God is greater than our God, which means it is the devil. Anyone who says he's greater than God, this is the devil. By the way, I learned from the Christians a Jewish teaching called Zechariah 2 verse 8 or 12, depending upon the Jewish or Christian text. Zechariah 2 verse 12 in the Jewish text says that the Jews are the apple of God's eye. And anybody who touches the Jews touches the apple of God's eye, which means God loves the Jews. If the Christians are grafted in to the Jews, which I say they are, then anybody who touches the...
Now, I want to clarify this specific point. God loves the Jews because the Jews are better, or just simply because?
No. Well, there's a lot of history. Obviously, you have Exodus 19 verse 5, where the people who fled from slavery in Egypt, who were not only from the 12 tribes, there were a lot of other nations.
A lot of other nations came.
But anybody who came to Mount Sinai became part of this nation, known as the nation of Israel. And God loves these people, and in Exodus 19 verse 5, there was a compact made between these people, which included non-Jews, who became Jews, and the God of Israel. So God loves us because God is not a liar, God keeps his word, and God made an everlasting pact with the Jewish people. And we're sinners, obviously. We're human beings like anyone else, and sometimes we're even worse sinners than everybody else. We're humans, we're all sinners. But God loves us. And anybody who touches us, because God made a pact with us, that's like poking God's eye out. You don't want to do that. You know,
Right.
Pharaoh wanted to kill the firstborn, and he did, of the Jews, so he lost his firstborn. He wanted to drown the Israelites in the Red Sea, so his people got drowned in the Red Sea. You don't mess with the apple of God's eye. Now, in the Romans 9 to 11...
So who's going to stop the political correct people and the Muslims around the world, the fanatic Muslims, from touching God's eye?
Well, what I believe is going to happen is that the Muslims, the Muslim agenda, will eventually attack those people who service them. I call that the harlot riding the dragon. That's an entirely other subject. The
That sounds like Revelation.
Yes, the globalist one world government and banking system corporations. These people serve Islam because Islam has the money. Jews and Christians are broke. But the day is going to come that Islam is going to come and destroy that harlot, and the harlot will have to destroy the dragon. So I believe in the end that even the politically correct so-called Christians and so-called Jews will eventually, in order to save the world economy, will have to bring down the dragon, which is Islam, or the devil. But anyway, but getting back to the difference between God and the devil, our God is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and their God is the God of Ishmael. Ishmael was a wild donkey. If we're looking at Genesis 16, verse 11, his hand will be against all his fellow brethren, and his brethren's hands will be against his hand. This is a prescription for constant warfare. And if you look at the wars on the face of the earth today, I think 95% of the wars on the face of the earth today involve Islam in one way or another. It is the fulfillment of this prophecy that Ishmael's hand will be against everybody else's
But it's
hand.
very interesting that his name is Ishmael, and in Hebrew, that means God hears.
Right.
So what on earth?
Yeah. Well, you know what? If God did not create us as robots. God created us with a free choice and a free will to either be with God or to be against God. Now, in order for that choice to come down over the thousands of years, you had to have God and you had to have a devil. So God,
Okay,
you choose God or the
so you have
devil.
a choice, yeah.
Now, if you have a devil, then you have to have those who follow the devil. Now, God is not a liar. And God said to Hagar, Ishmael, God heard your voice. And God is not a liar. God said to Abraham when Ishmael was cast out and Abraham was so distraught, what is going to happen to my son? God says, I will take care of your son. Is God a liar? God is not a liar. God took care of Ishmael. He had 12 sons. I will make of him a great nation.
He's a huge nation
And
today.
he's a huge nation. Unfortunately, the system is of the devil, which is Allah and Muhammad. Once you destroy the system, Muslims are good people like anybody else. Don't forget, a lot of the Muslim world today are forced converts from Judaism and Christianity and others. Hindus. Pakistan, by the way, used to be a Hindu country.
That's something
Pakistanis
nobody talks about.
Our former Hindus were forced to convert to Islam.
Forget what's happening in Bethlehem today.
Right. By the way, and in my first book and in my second book, I talk about the Islamization of Bethlehem and Nazareth, and unfortunately, the Israeli government hasn't really done anything about it. That's why I'm forming a Judeo-Christian party.
That's a whole different story.
That's another party a thing we're going to talk about. But anyway, so the God of the Jews and the Christians is the same God, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The God of Islam is the God of Ishmael, and one is God and one is not God. One is another God or the devil, and that's Allah.
Or it's a God with a small g.
Right. Now, also another thing. We agree God loves the Jews and Christians. Does God love the
God loves everybody.
God loves the Hindus. God loves the
God
Buddhists.
loves his creation. I mean, look at the garden we're sitting in.
Yes, and God loves the Muslims too. Allah hates the Jews, wants them dead on Saturday, hates the Christians, wants them dead on Sunday, hates the Hindus, the Buddhists, and he also hates the Muslims because they kill each other in the name of Allah.
Yes, they do.
So if you're a Sunni, you're not going to heaven until you kill all the Shiites. And if you're a
you're
Shiite,
Shiite,
you don't go to heaven until you kill all the Sunnis. That's why even if someone converts to Islam, God forbid, that person in the end is sentenced to death by the other Muslim who says he's an infidel. So obviously a God who wants to see the Jews, the Christians, the Hindus, the Buddhists, and the Muslims all dead, that cannot be God. That can only be the opposite of God, which is the devil. Why is it the devil? Because the devil doesn't like anything created in the image of God.
That's right.
If we human beings, including the Muslims, are in the image of God, then if the devil wants us all dead, that is not God. Allah is the devil.
And with that, we move on.